Should you cycle Cialis?
That's a good question. It depends what you're using it for. So I I've written a couple of times about my thoughts on Cialis. I think that ultimately the goal, especially for a younger man, if a man's in his late 60s or 70s and so forth, different story. But if we're talking about a young guy here, if if a young guy is using Cialis for erectile dysfunction, we ultimately want to resolve the need for that. So I think the long-term goal should be not to require Cialis for sexual function. However, what we all know is that the sexual benefits of TRT take time to kick in. 6 months, 12 months, potentially longer if a guy's health is particularly derailed. It might take him, 12 to 24 months to resolve things like insulin resistance, excess body fat, improving his cardiovascular health, improving his mental confidence, all of those kind of things, having a good sexual relationship with his partner. All of those things take time. So Cialis can be a good thing that can work as a band-aid in the interim, especially if the lack of sexual function is burdening or stressing the relationship. If someone's married or living with a partner and their inability to maintain an erection is causing strain on the relationship, I think daily Cialis for the first X months of treatment, typically 3 to 6 months, is a fantastic way to fast track those benefits to be able to have those more holistic benefits around intimacy. And what I find a lot of the time is that once guys get to the 3 to 6 month mark, they just forget to take it. They just go, "Oh, I don't need this anymore," and then it just works out of their system. The only dependence risk of Cialis is a psychological dependence that people think that they can't perform without it. It doesn't cause a physiological dependence, but most people will attest in practice that if I think it's kind of like caffeine. If you don't drink coffee ever and then you have a coffee, it's going to hit you a lot harder than it would if you were taking it daily. But it still has the effect that it should be producing daily. So if people want to get the most bang for their buck out of Cialis for like a one night performance, then yeah, taking it without using it regularly does in practice yield a stronger effect, but it doesn't mean that using it daily is subject to some kind of massive tolerance or it stops working. So I don't think it needs to be cycled. And I think if Cialis is needed for erection function, the dose can be put up. 5 milligrams of Cialis is not very much. Cialis is well studied in 20 or even 40 milligram doses a day. So if guys do have legitimate erectile dysfunction while they're waiting for their testosterone dose to kick in, and the 5 milligrams of Cialis isn't cutting the mustard, 10 milligrams of Cialis a day is a very reasonable dose to use. And additional things can be used in conjunction, like things like citrulline. I think guys should be focusing on, cardiovascular health, reducing stress, stuff like that. But the dose can be escalated of it while it's needed. But yeah, so I don't think it needs to be cycled. I think it more needs to be looked at as I'm using this for a period until I no longer need it.